Hey folks, this is Rhykker with a Diablo and Overwatch news wrap-up video where we give our thoughts on the happenings of the week. Let's start with the Diablo news. If you're just here for Overwatch, then skip ahead to the time frame shown above. Or don't. I'm not your boss. So the big news in Diablo is that Season 11 has started this week. It started on Thursday. That's unusual. It typically starts on a Friday, but Blizzard wanted to give themselves a working day, in case something went catastrophically wrong and they had to fix it. Now, if you haven't yet started the season and you're trying to figure out what class you want to play, then have a gander at our top 10 build list video for some inspiration. In Diablo community news, this is something of interest to people who watch streams. DatModz has resurfaced. He is back. He is streaming again. However, rumor has it he might be swapping to Path of Exile when the 3.0 update releases soon. Now, something else happened this week to get the community excited, but not in a good way, and that was a surprise Diablo 3 patch. The patch went live just 2 days before the new season started, and it introduced a bunch of new bugs, so people were freaking out, and all that was resolved the next day. Another patch went out to fix what the previous patch broke. So everything is okay now, and the two main things that the patch brought, at least the ones of greatest interest to us, is when you kill a champion or elite pack that drops progress globes, those globes are now going to drop closer to where the enemy was when he died, rather than half a screen away. And the other major change is that the necromancer portraits were updated. This was a big complaint from the community, so we now have new in-game portraits for the male and female necromancer. They're certainly an improvement, particularly the female one. Personally, I can't say I absolutely love the new female portrait, but it's certainly an improvement over the old one. But what do you guys think? Did you prefer the old portraits? Do you love the new portraits? Sound off in the comments. Also this week, community manager Nevelistis, aka Brandy Camel, her real name, aka Dainty, as in Dainty's binding, the belt in-game. She was interviewed on the Geek and Sundry Twitch channel. In case you're not familiar with it, Geek and Sundry is a commercial YouTube channel and multimedia production company, and one of its three founders was the Queen of the Geeks herself, Felicia Day. Now, something about this interview has also managed to upset the community, at least a little bit, and that's the fact that on the Geek and Sundry Twitch channel, you have to be a subscriber in order to view past videos, VODs, videos on demand. So people basically started to complain that Blizzard is choosing to, instead of release new information via their own channels, that they're going through other venues, other channels, and now one in which you have to pay to get access to the information, and things just started spiraling. And before we get further into the controversy here, let's just cover what information we actually learned from this interview. Reddit user Iglet007 was nice enough to give us a rundown on the important information we gleaned, and here it is. The first major thing we learned is that we're not going to expect any major balance patch anytime soon. The team's focus was stability for Season 11, and while we will see some changes down the line, it's probably not going to be during Season 11. So a couple weeks ago we were talking about buffs that we might see to the Pestilence set, for instance. That's not going to happen during Season 11. Blizzard doesn't buff mid-season. We also learned that Blizzard is testing out ways to make skeletons last longer. That was another big complaint from the community. But again, there's nothing coming soon. However, skeletons will be lasting longer in the future. And that's it. That's basically all the new information that we learned from this interview. So back to the controversy here. The semblance that Blizzard is making you pay to gain access to this information. Well, let's just clarify a few things. Geek and Sundry approached Blizzard, it wasn't the other way around. This was explained by Brandy Camel herself. Brandy loves Geek and Sundry. She feels that the core value of Geek and Sundry, embracing your inner geek, is a value shared by Blizzard. So she thought it would be a good idea to do this interview. And beyond that, Blizzard does not control the distribution methods of Geek and Sundry. You could disagree with their policies, but Geek and Sundry only allows you to view their past broadcasts if you're a subscriber. That's just the way a Twitch channel works. You can't selectively make some videos pay-per-view and some free-for-view. There's just a tick box in your settings, unless things have changed since I last looked. And the last thing I'll just add to this is that the little bit of useful information that we got, not to say that the rest of the interview was useless, but it was more fluff, if you will, rather than concrete, hard-hitting Diablo news. It was meant more for Geek and Sundry's audience, which is more about what's it like to work for Blizzard and that kind of stuff. So given this wasn't some kind of intense, big, information-heavy grill session with a lot of exclusive info, it's not a big deal, but that's just my opinion. I would maybe feel different if Brandy gave a lot of exclusive information, dropping a lot of new things that we don't know, because even what we learned is stuff that we've already kind of figured out ourselves, or at the very least it's not stuff that we won't find out soon enough. But what do you guys think? Did this interview rub you the wrong way? Now I will mention one more thing that was brought up during the interview, or rather the way Iglet007 transcribed it. He basically said that the two Diablo 3 community managers, including Brandy and the other being Tivolier, Blake Hall, they took back-to-back one-week vacations right after the launch of the Necromancer. And this happened around the time of the exploit, which is why there seemed to be a delayed response on Blizzard's part to deal with all this. Well, Brandy actually stepped in and clarified some things about that. First off, while she did take a week off, Tivolier only took 1 day off. And the 1 week off that she took was after a long time working 12 to 16-hour days in preparation of the Necromancer launch. She had the flu for 15 days and laryngitis for 5 days, and despite taking the week off to deal with her health to recover, she still spent most of her vacation playing Diablo 3, tracking issues, and writing up bug reports from out of the office. Now I have to state my bias here. I have met Brandy and Tivolier in person. They're both wonderful people, but I just want to give that extra context there because the first message can give the wrong impression that they either aren't hardworking or don't care, when the absolute opposite is true. Alright, also in Diablo news, we have Harrison G. Pink, who joined the Diablo team as a senior designer. If you're not familiar with the name, neither was I, but he was one of the world designers for Mafia 3, where he, quote, was responsible for implementing open-world combat level design throughout the game world. He also worked on Tales from the Borderlands Episode 1, Zero Sum, and he was a game designer on Telltale Games' The Walking Dead Season 2, and The Walking Dead 400 Days. So as you can see, these are all very narrative-heavy games. And some people are now pointing to Diablo 4. And while I won't say that it absolutely cannot be the case, I think this is perhaps one of the weaker bits of circumstantial evidence. Yes, it could be that he's being brought to the Diablo team to work on a new game as a senior designer. It's also possible that he's just being brought on to help continue to run Diablo 3, even if we won't see any major new content coming to Diablo 3. As an example of what I believe to be a bit stronger evidence, I would point to two people within Blizzard that I do believe were moved on to a new Diablo game. The first being Tom Chilton, who was the game director of World of Warcraft and was on World of Warcraft from 2004 up until the end of 2016. It was in late 2016 that Tom Chilton said he would be leaving the Warcraft team to, quote, focus on another project within the company. Now, in case you've forgotten, it was in August 2016 that a position for a game director for an unannounced project in the Diablo universe went up. That job posting went down sometime in fall of 2016, and it was in October of 2016 that Chilton announced he was leaving the WoW team. Then in June of this year, we had Brian Holinka, World of Warcraft's senior PvP designer, leaving the WoW team to move on to another project at Blizzard. Both of these individuals did not disclose what project they were moving on to, and they only do this if the project is unannounced. If it were Overwatch, Hearthstone, Heroes of the Storm, they would have said where they were moving. We would know what team they're on right now. So that leaves StarCraft 3 or Diablo 4 or a new IP altogether. I personally feel that they're on the new Diablo game. People with MMORPG experience are going to transition better into an action RPG like Diablo than a strategy game like StarCraft. But of course, that's just speculation. And for those who still staunchly believe that there is nothing new happening in the Diablo world, those people who are not convinced by all of the job postings, I'll toss in something that Diablo subreddit mod Herp Derpenberg stated, quote, well, I had a Blizzard tour a couple years back and saw a do not enter, there is no cow level room for a secret project. So there's that. And without naming names, I'll add that I know other people, multiple other people, who have had tours of the offices more recently that said similar things. There were areas that were off limits that they could not get access to for secret reasons. Now at this point, the Necromancer had been announced. So what other secrets is Blizzard keeping in the Diablo team? But again, speculation. What do you think this could all mean? Moving on, there's a new Diablo 3 pet that you can get. You get it by buying the War Chest for StarCraft 2 that can range in price from $10 to $25 depending on how much you buy. It's just a reskin of the Probe pet that you got for the Digital Deluxe of Legacy of the Void, the second expansion for StarCraft 2. So I already have that one. I personally have no interest in buying the War Chest for StarCraft, so I'm not going to spend $10 just for a reskin pet in Diablo 3, but what do you guys think? And our last bit of Diablo news here, Diablo 3 composer Russell Brower leaves Blizzard. He did the music for Diablo 3, but also for World of Warcraft, for Hearthstone, for StarCraft 2. He was at Blizzard for 12 years. Now I'm going to quote from a statement he made, "My current position of overall senior audio director / composer is no longer relevant and is being eliminated." He later says, "There's an excellent chance I will continue to contribute to Blizzard's projects as a freelance composer." This actually sounds like he's being downsized. It's a bit of a shame because he definitely contributed some wonderful music to Blizzard. But I do know that many people criticize Diablo 3's soundtrack. The music of Diablo 1 and 2 was created by Matt Uelmen, and I agree, it was absolutely iconic, and there has not been another. I enjoy Diablo 3's music. It was epic, it was orchestral, but it overall felt a little generic, I suppose. Whereas Matt Uelmen's music is so iconic that in later projects he did, I knew right away, oh, that is Matt. His music was so atmospheric, dark, and gritty, and honestly, it's a big part of what made Diablo 2 Diablo 2. But what do you think? Did you prefer Diablo 2's music or Diablo 3's? Alright, moving on to Overwatch news. A new comic went up, The Masquerade, showing us some sweet, sweet Talon action. We'll have links to both the animated version and the still version in the video description. Not enough people know about the animated version or how to access it. Click on that link below, check it out, it's a pretty cool comic. And it sheds a lot of light on Talon. Here's some of the stuff that we learned. For starters, we know that back in that Sombra cinematic reveal, where she makes that secret deal with Katya Volskaya, well, it turns out Rhykker knew about that whole thing. He saw what Sombra was up to. And that's great, because it makes Rhykker seem less incompetent. He's a Black Ops team leader, he should be on top of this stuff. And he was. And through this comic, we also learned that every Talon mission we've seen so far wasn't actually a failure. For instance, when Rhykker breaks into Winston's base and starts downloading the mainframe, we thought he failed, but it turns out he managed to take a lot of names and managed to kill some of the Overwatch operatives on that list. We have the obviously successful operation where Widowmaker assassinated Mondada. We found out that the Katya Volskaya operation was actually a success, because she's more useful alive than dead. And Rhykker and Widowmaker failing to get Doomfist Gauntlet, well, turned out to not be a big deal because Doomfist got it back himself. This makes Talon seem a lot less like incompetent Team Rocket style villains, and people who can actually get things done. We learn more about the leadership of Talon. We get to meet Maximilian, an evil Omnic, it would appear, and he was pleased with Widowmaker for assassinating Mondada, so he's clearly not holding on to any Omnic loyalties. We know that Maximilian is French because his instinct was to cry out "no" in French instead of "no" in English. So if we ever do get to hear his voice, it should have a French accent. This also means that his name would be Maximilien and not Maximilian. The other French lines in this comic aren't particularly interesting or important, so if you don't speak French, you don't really miss anything. They're just revolving around the casino game. We meet another member of the Talon leadership, Viali, an Italian from Venice, and he is not happy with Doomfist coming back. He wants Doomfist gone, and he was the one who actually wanted to take out Katya Volskaya, whereas Doomfist thinks she's better off alive. So for a number of reasons, Doomfist throws him off a bridge and kills him. But from meeting some of the other Talon leadership, it seems that the non-combatants are really just in it for the money, for the profit. And Doomfist looks like he's trying to bring back the more militant approach. Again, Doomfist wants to create conflict in the world. He wants war, because he feels that's how we're tested, and by being tested, we're made stronger. Whereas it seems other members of the leadership just want to create conflict in order to create profit, perhaps by selling weapons. We learned that Talon isn't anti-Omnic, since there's an Omnic in the leadership. Some theories were that Talon hated Omnics, so it seems anything that seemed anti-Omnic, like assassinating Mondada, was just in an effort to create conflict. We learned that Doomfist wasn't in contact with Talon while he was in prison, or at least his contact was very limited. So he was not running the show from behind the scenes like some kind of mafia boss. But this comic also does raise some unanswered questions. For instance, Doomfist brings up to Rhykker the Uprising event, but that whole interaction is kind of odd. Rhykker says, "Tensions in London are boiling over. Hasn't been this bad since after the uprising." Doomfist replies, "That was a missed opportunity. But who would have thought Overwatch would get involved?" Now that seems odd because Rhykker was involved. And from other things that Doomfist has said, Doomfist knows that Rhykker was Gabriel Reyes, a member of Overwatch. So did Doomfist somehow not know that Rhykker was actually part of the Uprising mission for Overwatch? Was Rhykker working as a double agent back then? Had he not joined Talon yet? There's just so many questions, and I can't wait to learn the truth. Those Masquerade costumes though, those gotta be skins. Now on to some news from Terry Crews. Now Terry Crews, who we were all hoping would be the voice of Doomfist, did an interview with PC Gamer where he shed some light on the whole situation. He said, quote, "It's funny because when I went down to Blizzard and we were talking about possibilities, I realized that I don't want to be the guy that hijacks a game, you know? The creators have a vision and I didn't want to mess that up. I was not interested in trying to hijack the game. I let them know that whatever fitted in their program, I would love to do. When I saw that Doomfist was created, that they'd went with another guy, the whole thing, it's actually quite perfect. It's absolutely amazing. I can honestly say that they made a move that's better for the game, which is what they're about. I know people were upset, but I'm not." So Crews here was basically trying to pacify the Overwatch community because there was some degree of uproar from fans that really wanted Crews to be Doomfist. They were mad at Blizzard for not giving Crews the opportunity to be Doomfist. And here Crews is just being a super nice guy. You gotta love Terry Crews. And he's basically saying, chill out guys, it's okay. Now he goes on to say, if I ever do anything with Blizzard, you watch, it'll be perfect. With those guys, we're all friends, we're all good. I think there will be something coming down the line. And then he goes on to talk about how he is actually now a character, not just voicing a character, he's an actual character in another video game. But it is nice to know that he is open to doing something for Overwatch with the team, but it also lets us know that there's nothing in the works right now. There's nothing that he has done and is gonna release soon, so we can keep hoping for Terry Crews to be in Overwatch somehow, but there's no, or at least there doesn't seem to be any secret thing that was already done, like a voice pack or whatever. Are you guys disappointed by that? Do you hope Terry Crews will be in the game somehow, someday? Also in Overwatch news, we got an official Doomfist preview video from Blizzard. One nice quote from that video was, "Doomfist is a love letter to the fighting game genre." And Jeff Kaplan himself in the video says, "Doomfist in his own mind is not a villain. Doomfist cares about perpetuating strength and honor. Other people, of course, around him see him as an absolute terror and a villain." Now, I've said this before, I'll say it again, I think the most interesting villains are those that have motivations beyond villainy. In the real world, most villains don't see themselves as villains, they think they're doing something good, but it's viewed as villainous to other people. The one exception I think I'll make is the Joker from Batman. He is just a really well executed, I want to see the world burn kind of guy. So Doomfist is releasing July 27th on PC, Xbox One, and PS4. And the question then is, will the Summer Games release at the same time? Last year, the Summer Games were in early August. Odds are it'll also be in early August this year. But we do know from a little screw up from Blizzard a few weeks ago that leaked Doomfist. From the PTR from the test server, the crash files mentioned Summer Games Doomfist patch, basically. So it seems the same patch is bringing both Doomfist and the Summer Games. That said, it could be that you'll be downloading the assets for the Summer Games, but it'll only unlock at a later date. Now, other two cool new things that'll come either with Doomfist or the Summer Games include a loot box rework that'll highly decrease your odds of getting duplicate items, thank goodness, and the ability to actually save highlights. Another bit of Overwatch news. There were some rumors that a new character had been leaked, a new hero had been leaked. This is because in the Doomfist video, you can see Soldier 76 wielding a gun that is not his normal gun. You could interpret it in some way to look like a flamethrower, and we do know that when Blizzard is testing out new heroes, they use existing assets. So they're not going to create a new model from scratch, they're going to use an in-game model of a hero while playtesting the new hero. Well, this theory falls apart when we realize that Blizzard also wouldn't make a new weapon just for that. For instance, Orisa was Zarya's character model wielding the minigun of Bastion. Further on this gun, if you look carefully, you can actually see 76 written on the gun. So what this points more towards is possible new gun skins. And the fact that we're not seeing a new overall skin for Soldier, just a new gun, suggests we may have the ability in the future to mix and match weapon and character skins. Further proof for that is when you look at Sombra and see she seems to have a new gun as well, without a new skin. Now, I would love to be able to take the gun skin from one of the skins and the base skin from another one. I think that's a great thing to combo together. What do you think? Would you like to see that feature come to Overwatch? And the last thing we'll bring up here is an individual who remade Doomfist inside Minecraft. Not only is it a skin, it's fully functional, all of Doomfist's powers. This guy has also done Genji, Hanzo, Lucio, Reaper, and Tracer. His name is McMackestein or MC Mackestein. It took him a week to make Doomfist, and you can go download that mod in the description below if you want to check it out yourself. And that wraps up this week's video. Don't forget to sound off in the comment with your thoughts on any and all of these stories. Thanks for watching. Special thanks to my Twitch and Patreon supporters for making these videos possible. If you enjoyed this video, please share it, check out these other videos, and subscribe to join Rhykker's Raiders for more Overwatch and Diablo content.